on today's episode of All About Life with Danielle Brown.
That has been hard to really put yourself in the back seat a lot more than we ever did early on.
And for me, even in my most my boldest moments, it's like I still, as a woman, feel the desire to be led.
Being the leader, while it might seem appetizing, like it also comes with the harsh reality of you're going to take the biggest blow. Like the husbands carry a lot of weight to lead the family. It's not always glamorous or beautiful. Things harder. I guess one of my questions was, how do you prioritize your marriage and kind of figuring out having to relearn what your marriage looks like when you do have kids? Because that's something I've never even thought of, is that your relationship would actually, like, things are going to change because now you're a mom or you're a dad and you're personally changing. So thus your relationship is going to change.
Yeah. Oof. It's been hard, honestly, to prioritize.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we probably don't have a perfect answer, but I was kind of visualizing something. In the movies, I think the movies get this right in the sense of where like families will wake up and like a good, funny family movie, and they're running through like the schedule of the day, and this kid's got to go there, and this is on the little whiteboard on the fridge, and make sure you feed Johnny this, and make sure you get Brittany to this practice. And obviously we haven't graduated to that level yet where our kids are old, but I think what I've noticed now, I've always been, and you may speak on this, I've always been a big like planner, organizer, like list, computer, like I'm up and I need to schedule what's going on. That may not be for everybody as a couple, but what I will say to your question is, when you throw these kids in the mix, you have no choice but to talk and prioritize and plan together, because if you don't, it will fail.
Yeah.
And that's just because in our short time of being parents this past year and a half, it's like there are things that need to be done for these boys, whether it's diapers, whether it's doctor appointments, whether it's getting the church for something, or planning something as a group where we have to get them ready probably an hour before ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Because now there's two of them. And it's cleaning up and it's organizing the kitchen in a certain way because we got people coming over for this, and it's preparing a certain bedtime routine so that which we do not have settled right now. Our kids are going to bed at like freaking 11 p.m., which is crazy. I feel embarrassed to say that, but it's, we don't have all those rhythms set. But I guess my point is, like, there is a certain level of like putting your heads together, prepping, prioritizing, no matter how different you are as people. I think that level of communication and planning, you got to have it, or else your house is just going to be chaos constantly. And it helps us. Like, we have a thing, I'll throw this in there, a little nugget. Like, we do this like Sunday night planning thing that we started trying to implement because it would help us say like, okay, hey babe, what does your week look like? Hey Carson, what does your week look like? What do we have to get the boys to? Is there anything that's different? Is there like a bill that we forgot, etc.? And so we try to take at least one night out of the week where we get our heads together and really like plan as to what's to come. And I think for people who may not have kids or just be early on like you guys, and this is not a fault to you, but when you're in that early stage, you're just kind of like, hey, like I got my stuff to do, she's got her stuff to do, we'll just figure it out. Like, hey, I'll see you at home and we'll wake up and let's do it. And you start throwing these little things in the mix, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like there's these responsibilities that are like having to figuratively like kill yourself. Like you have to like downgrade yourself a lot more. And that has been hard to really put yourself in the back seat a lot more than we ever did early on.
Yeah. And I think when I think of prioritizing, a lot of people will not jump the gun, but say like, oh, date nights. Like that's going to be most people's like go-to answer, which I totally am on board with.
We were on board with for a while.
But life in the mix, and like it is hard. And so we've had to like, okay, how much do we want to spend on babysitters, and what are we going to do? Or do we want to, for Valentine's Day, we went outside our little, patio apartment and it's a company called City Bonfires. We got it for Christmas. It's literally like a candle and it came with s'mores. And so we like had a little bonfire and we were like, this is so cheesy, but like, it would just make it work.
With a baby monitor,
yeah.
And we had red wine, and it was the most redneck thing you've ever seen. But again, to my point earlier, it's like, it'll probably be one of my most favorite moments, when we look 10 years down the road, because it's like, this is what we can do and we're going to do it well, so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's real life. That is getting real there.
So I was going to say the kids definitely brought on more intentional communication between y'all.
Yes.
No, that's a good word. So we don't have as much of it anymore, especially alone. But like in the mornings, thankfully, I'm at home right now, and then Carson is obviously working for himself, running a business. So we have some flexibility. So as of recent, with crews here, I will say we've connected a lot through teamwork. So it might not be as like together, but Carson will get Cash in the morning and get his milk and bring him in bed, and we'll have all 4 of us. And it's like, oh, this like seems a little like lazy, but we also have 2 under 1. And it's like just special time. Like we will never forget like those moments and like that time together. So just trying to cherish that. So I feel like that's been a way we've been able to spend some time together too.
No, I love that. And going back to, you were like, I'm kind of like the planner, and Erin's doing this at home with the boys, or whatever it looks like. I think early on in your marriage, you kind of, once you are like living together, we're figuring out roles, right? Like, and I think that's a good thing to have, like to delegate, right? Like we both do dishes, we both vacuum, but he like handles more of the bills and keeps me in the loop in that. I do more of the shopping because he hates shopping, and I keep him in the loop on that. Why are you laughing?
This is funny.
That's what we do. You do hate shopping. I'm like, do you want to go? And he's like, absolutely not. I would rather do anything than that. And we're both passionate and good at different things. But I think one of the biggest things I hear, like from Christians and non-believers, is this idea of a biblical marriage and what that looks like. I told you guys earlier, we were reading Ephesians 5 yesterday, going along with this like lesson that we're working through and talking about wives, submit to your husbands. Husbands, love your wives as the Lord loves his bride, the church. And I think sometimes, I don't know, I was telling Solomon, like, I want to respect you and you are the head of the household. And sometimes it's hard because I'm like, what does submit really mean? Because I'm an independent woman who needs you though. Like I do need my husband in a good, healthy way. So what do you guys, how do y'all take that? We were talking about it last night of what the biblical, and this is a loaded question, of what a biblical marriage is, how God intended it, what that looks like. Do we really have to submit? What does submission look like? I mean, that's something I've talked to my mom about. Like who makes the final call? So how do y'all answer that? How do y'all go about that in y'all's own marriage?
I don't know. I think a cool little like piece of imagery that relates to them. So when I look at that, I always think of the phrase divine order, or even you could just say order, for people who aren't believers. It's like, all right, things need an order. So like, for me and Solomon, if we're on the football field playing a game and there's no referees and nobody to call things or orchestrate things, well, no order, it's going to be chaotic. Everybody's just calling their own game, running their own stuff. There's no sort of like awareness as to what's going on, and it'll just fall apart. And Danielle, for you, I think with doing broadcasting and stuff, right? There's preparation, there's knowing things, there's preparing questions, there's talking to the person you're interviewing prior. With no order, you just may go in there and just say, yo, I don't know what we're doing, but like, here's a question for you. Yeah. They don't know you haven't prepped, you haven't prayed it through, etc. And I just look at those funny things. And I think in a world to where I think we're, I think what order does is it brings a lot of humility. And you have to, through order, submit to something. You
Yeah.
have to submit to some type of authority. Now that's not popular in today's day and age, because I do think, and I'm guilty, she's good, we're all guilty of, I think we're a very like self-serving society. And at the worst of us, we want what we want and we want what we feel. And so any type of submission to an authority or any type of order, we almost like little kids, we're like, I don't want this. But in God's word, and without going too much into it, I think we see throughout God's word, we see throughout history. Again, you don't have to be like, look through history. Some of the greatest moments of order produce the most fruit. And when things are not in order, and when there is no sort of authority to whatever it is, it's your house, it's government, it's a team, it's a workplace. When you don't have that, things get crazy. And so I think for us, and what I'm seeing in society, I think it's great to like empower each individual in the household. I think it's great to celebrate my wife and she celebrates me. But at the end of the day, if things are falling apart and it's go time and it's ready time, I think it's very clear throughout the scriptures and throughout history that there needs to be divine order, male and female, as to how God created it. And that doesn't downplay the other person next to you. It just reveals, hey, when it's time to roll, it's time to roll. And this is going to be the authority of this house. And another thing that I would like to throw in there, because it is such a loaded deal, the thing with order and with authority in the house has become 1,000,000% like clear to me having kids.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's easy to like be like, yo, I'm boss lady, and he's like big dog doing his thing, and like you don't have a lot of other things. You can kind of like go on your own deal. But man, I mean, I think the detriment to our kids, if not careful, like who are these little guys looking to at the end of the day? Like when it's time to roll, when it's time to make decisions, yes, they're going to be like submitted to mama, they're going to be submitted to dad, but at the end of the day, like what we see time and time again, my little guys are going to be like, okay, like dad has to say so, he's the authority, he's the king of the house. And I think even people who don't want to say it like that envision it like that, like there is that authority figure. And so I only wanted to throw that in because we haven't talked about it too much, but just I think the heavy, gracious like weight that I carry now as a dad, but also as a husband, has taught me a lot more of like what God meant by like order and what he meant by the authority of the household. And also just for, you said submit, and it is kind of like a weird word to people. But again, I think it's a respectful, honoring authority to somebody who is above the home, who is above the relationship, who at the end of the day is taking leadership over what's happening. So I don't know, my kids have helped me see it a lot clearer, and just the importance of it, I believe.
When you said imagery, it made me think of like us going hand in hand, like through a door, and obviously one through a single door, like one has to go first. And for me, even in my most like my boldest moments, it's like I still as a woman feel the desire to be led. And like you mentioned earlier, love and respect. Like I desire, that love and that just not necessarily authority, but just someone to like take my hand and lead me, So yeah, it's a tough topic, loaded word, especially in today's society when we're so, I can still feel like a boss lady and, this like fierce woman, because my husband empowers me to be that way. But, order is a great word. Yeah, I lost my train of thought, but
What are your takeaways?
I was going to say, building on that, it's definitely like a respect thing, king and queen, and that if you want to think of it in that aspect, yes, there's the king and there's the queen, but if the king doesn't respect the queen, like that's just not going to be a good kingdom. It's like going to be very turmoil. The queen obviously carries enough respect herself, without the king, and so does the king without the queen. But the ones when they're united, even in movies, it's when the kingdom is united, flourishing, movies or whatever. It's the better kingdom, but when it's not, and it's turmoil and it's inner strife and it's not going along, it's kind of the same thing. But I think the respecting factor of opinion and like point of view, and obviously in arguments and that aspect, they go, but not in every argument you're going to come to a conclusion, or every situation is going to be an answer. I mean, they're both could be point of view or both good answer, but it's like, I think biblically wise, the man is the leader of the house, and it's like the 50-50 rule is kind of like the toss up kind of goes that way. But obviously with respect, not like just disrespecting, using like I'm the man of this house, like,
but for the best for everyone.
Yeah, because obviously both parties are thinking of the best, and both. It's not like, I mean, obviously it should be that way, but I mean, like they're both thinking of, for instance, y'all's kids. I mean, obviously y'all grew up different, no matter, and y'all went up fast, so you probably have different ideas of like what to do and how, or what you read or what you didn't read, and what my parents did, and so on, or what you saw. And it's like, those are situations that I'm sure that pop up, and it doesn't pop up for us, but we have different things. Like we touched on how we grew up so different, very different. Very different, and
like, almost polar opposites.
Yeah, and but it's like our upbringing was different. So like, how are we going to reflect that onto kids? And it's definitely, it's just the things that there may not be an answer. You never know if that's the right or the wrong, because you kind of have a bias going into it. But you got to understand it and respect that both parties are looking for the best.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned it's like the queen has authority and the king has authority individually, but together is when they're going to have like a really great kingdom, right? I think marriage is like just that, like a marriage. And if you're in unity with Jesus, like this is like a forever partnership. So we're discussing, we're making decisions together. We're both respecting each other's opinions. I remember I asked my mom about that when I first got married. And I was like, I don't know if I've had a circumstance where, Solomon had to, like, I had to submit to Solomon. Like, what does that look like? And my mom's like, well, y'all are still new, so give it time. But like life decisions are going to come. And she actually said the same example. Y'all both might have really good ideas, but at the end of the day, if y'all can't agree, the husband's going to make a decision for your family. And you have to trust that he's making the decision for the best for your family. And if you get it wrong, at least it's on you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just saying that. But
Thanks.
I think also I like what you said, Erin, as a woman, I can still feel very strong and very powerful in who I am and who God's made me to be. But I'm even better because Solomon is supporting me. And I would hope you'd say the same of you can lead better because I'm loving you and respecting you. And I think also being the leader, while it might seem appetizing, like it also comes with the harsh reality of you're going to take the biggest blow. Like the husbands carry a lot of weight to lead the family. It's not always glamorous or beautiful. And if you've really prayed about who you're marrying and now you're married, you're going to trust that like God's put the right decision in you. I'm going to trust that I married you for a reason. God's given you a discernment for a reason. And even if I don't see it or I disagree or it goes wrong, at least we follow through.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because what you said earlier, Carson, is that, you move in from Charleston to Orlando is very hard. And obviously all the babies coming and moving and everything else. And you felt like you said you bled on all that, all that innerness was coming out. But it's just, it's respectable, because you want to be that solid rock as the father, as the man in the house, as the leader. And that's a struggle with, that's just how kind of the leading role is, where that your family looks to you to be that solid state, to be the protector, to be, that
the provider, whatever.
And not even always the provider in today's terms of saying like, who makes the money,
the breadwinner,
who does this, but it's like almost the figure, like, who
the authority I feel like it's the
Yeah,
move.
and it's like I don't even want to say authority. It's like the leader role is
The head of the household.
yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, and that is stressful because when you feel like the rock is a little shaky on your part, maybe not even to everybody else because you're the biggest critic, being
Mhm.
who us kind of guys are, it's like you're going to be your biggest critic. And, if you feel like
Mhm.
it's a little unsteady to you, then everybody else may see it's fine, but your perfection and you
Yeah.
want it to be that way. So
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think that's where it kind of comes into where it's just like we have not just our own responsibility, like I have yours, like I definitely think the best for us and you, and then Carson, you have Aaron and two beautiful boys, that you're thinking of
Yeah.
all the time. And I'm sure.
Yeah. Now I was thinking too as we were talking, because I didn't highlight it too much, and I want to make sure that I do. I think when we look at, when we look at the scriptures, because somebody may be like tuning in or asking ourselves questions of, okay, like, what does this look like biblically? And I think when we look at like Jesus and Jesus as head of the church, Jesus willing to die for his bride, Jesus willing to sacrifice, like Jesus offering hope, when all hope seemed to be lost, like it was Jesus as head. And I think, I don't know why, but just the word like sacrifice ended up just kind of highlighting in my brain. And I think about that in terms of like a household, and also like being able to like cast direction. So like one, it's like the husband isn't just, and I think sometimes the world just gets this wrong. Obviously, the enemy's trying to pervert like a lot of things that we say or do, and but I think there's healthy direction and provision, not just authority and say so and domination through the house, but the husband is called to give. I almost think of sacrifice as like a grenade. Like if the house was going to blow up, if life was going to blow up, if things were going to fall apart, who's jumping on that grenade? Like it's me and you. And that's not to say that they're not willing and able to do that, but just as my wife just said, and I'm sure many wives would say, hey babe, like go jump on that grenade. You know what I'm saying? I doubt, and this again isn't a downplay at women, there's not going to be many women who are like, oh yeah babe, I got it. Many women are going to stand up and say, yes, I'm a strong woman in Christ, but I'm longing for somebody to lead me, love me, and sacrifice for me. So if that grenade is in our living room, babe, please jump on that thing. And I think it's a great way to kind of see what we're doing here. And Solomon, you brought up what I had said earlier, and this is just a real part of our story that I think maybe Aaron might have something on. But our move to Orlando was a lot of me bringing that to Aaron and just saying, hey, I see from COVID to church to change up to a lot of unseen things in Charleston, like this may not be our forever home. We need to roll, and there's a lot of prayer and peace. I actually went to Florida 3 times on my own to kind of scope it out, to pray, to ask God to give me peace. And if not, I'm going to go home and tell my wife we ain't doing it. But I think a part of our story that really relates to that husband and wife role was me being able to bring that to her and say, babe, I've got peace. Like I prayed through this. And even in some of that, Aaron was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like, I know I don't love Charleston, but maybe, we got the baby coming, like we should just stay here. And that was on me to say like, no, look, I'm going to take you by the hand. I'm going to take the family. We're going to load this thing up and we're going to move while Cash is 2 months old. And we're going to do this thing. It's going to bless us. Cause I see that, and thankfully, and that's not on me, but I think on the Holy Spirit that we look back, now almost a year later and say, wow, this was the greatest move we could have ever made. We've got an incredible church community, people, business. We love the state and so forth. And that all came from, and we see it repeated in history. I think the husband's got to take that role. And another half of this conversation that's probably not for this call is I think we see, and we're seeing right now, and it hurts my heart to look of when homes do not have that figure, what happens to the home and what happens to the kid. And that's not a downplay on those environments, but I think you begin to see things blossom as kids grow up of like, we are in need of that spiritual male figure. Like people need that. Our world needs that. And we're desperate for that. So let's be that. And I would say my even like the way that I try to champion people now is like as young men, like let's be this. Let's do it the right way, and let's honor God through this, and let's honor our spouse and our boys or our girls. Like I think it's a need for the future generations in a world right now where it ain't popular to talk about this right now. People don't like this conversation, so I think it's a need, you know.
Yeah, I love what we've mentioned it a few times where the woman, like, I want to be led, right? We agreed on that. Like, I told Sullivan last night, like, I've always desired a strong male, like a strong husband to like lead me and take me by the hand and be brave. And I think also while a woman has this desire to feel and need love and assurance and comfort, I think also males and as husbands need that from their wives, like where we give to each other, like men want to be respected. You almost have that need for like assurance and strength. And if I'm getting love from you and you're getting respect from me, we're having like a healthy marriage. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
Okay, cool. Good. Glad we're on the same page. Okay, I do have a few last questions, and we're gonna play a quick Spitfire game. It's like a trend going on, so we're gonna play. But the last question is your like 1 to 2 sentence advice or tip or trick, whatever it may be, to all the dating, engaged, married couples out there. So I'm gonna give you a few minutes to think about what good, tidbit you want to leave with everyone joining us. But while we do that, and I'll answer this first because I already have mine in mind because I came up with the question. But before we get to our advice, last few fun questions. Who in the relationship is the messiest?
Oh, what?
In what? I don't know.
You have to like redefine messy. I feel like
If we're
Like
including
physical,
someone's pets,
like-
then
no, just as people. Like a clutter, you're messier.
so
Look
she's
at our offices.
messy. I'm clutter oriented.
Yeah, like he has a bunch of stuff everywhere.
I have like stacks of things, but
you
she
know where
may,
it's at.
hey,
but
forget it.
that's a mom thing. That's a new. I'm like, it's just their toys. If we put them away, he's gonna pull them back out.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Gotcha.
That's fair. I didn't realize. Loaded question.
Yeah. Tonight. Sorry, we're too in-depth thinkers.
So I'm gonna put it on Solomon. Okay, who is the best cook? Who does more cooking?
Carson cooks great breakfast.
I'm also I do, all the like training and stuff. So I'm super basic. It's just like, give me like scrambled eggs, chicken and rice. Give me something to warm
Yeah,
up.
I do.
I'm good to go.
I do. I've gotten a lot better though. I feel like you will like to get fancy in the kitchen, but it like rarely ever happens.
I'm always doing something else.
Gotta eat. Okay. Who is the first to apologize in an argument? I definitely am. Every time.
That's not true.
It's pretty bad,
Not every
actually.
time.
Yeah, you said I don't know if I mean it, but I say I'm sorry a lot.
Yeah.
I will say you. I like to shut down. I'm a huge processor because I'm like, am I overthinking this? Like, I'll make up a whole story in my head. So usually by the time I'm like still processing and almost done, he's like, I'm sorry.
We had this morning, wake up thinking we were arguing last night, and we had no such instance. And we woke up and had breakfast before we went and worked out, and she was like, "Are we fighting?" I was like, "What will we be fighting about?" I was like,
I think it was in my dream that I couldn't remember.
In the
and
dream.
So I didn't think we were fighting, but I did. I was like,
She asked me 3 times.
I was like, is there tension here?
Case.
I was like, are we arguing?
I was like, I have no idea what we would be arguing about. I said, I fell asleep great last night.
That's irrelevant. I apologize first. Back to the question. Okay, last question, and then we'll do a tidbit for everyone. Who is the most romantic in the relationship?
Who? Which one?
Carson.
Hey.
Here's what I think.
Oh.
Someone asked me this the other day, and I think I said I'm more romantic in like the day to day. I think you do big things like the proposal or Christmas presents. You go really ham, and you're very romantic. You are very romantic.
Thank you. Yeah. So I win that.
But
one.
I do romantic things too. Like I used
never
to
said you
bring you
didn't.
food all the time and leave notes everywhere.
What was that prior thing that you used to? But I didn't hear.
Then we moved in together. What am I gonna? I guess I'll like write you notes on the mirror or something. That'd be cute, actually.
When I wake
should
up
do
before
that.
you. Interesting. So I gotta come back in. Solomon, come back in here.
Okay, fine. Solomon can have this one. You're also the messiest, but it's okay. All right. Let's leave everyone joining us today with your bit of advice for marriage or relationships or godly marriage, what that looks like. Y'all are the guests today, so I'll let you guys take it away.
Let's see.
Another hard one. Coming out with the heavy hitters.
I'm trying to compile all my little tidbits that I feel like we've learned.
The first thing that came to mind, but it's more so like dating engaged. I feel like is just follow the peace. In the sense of just like if the Lord gives you peace in who it is and what the situation is, there's going to be like peace that transcends time. You mentioned earlier, like, okay, did I have this moment, or am I with the right person, or should I be doing this? I just feel like follow the peace is good. So not really. I mean, it applies in certain senses in marriage, but more so dating engaged.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. Follow the peace.
Yeah, so a couple things. I would say be bold. Be bolder than you think bold is. That's something that I think we've really tried to do and learn from is to like not live a scared life. And we've hopped around and done a lot of scary things. Number two, which I think, this sounds like you're just kind of like giving, but I think it's helped a lot of us. And I'm big on this. Give your lives away. Just give your life away. Host people, speak with people, give to people, be generous, give your time. I think one thing, if we look back on us and like our personal private stuff versus all the community driven stuff that we like to be a part of, it's like the most like fulfilling things for Carson and Erin's marriage. I think anybody's is to like give yourself up to others who need it. And then third, I would say keep it really funny. Keep it really funny and know that probably what you're going through isn't that important.
Did you retweet that?
I didn't retweet that.
He said, it's not that important. And someone goes,
I didn't go that. I said, Small.
He said,
Small.
That's good advice.
Small retweet.
Yeah. Well, we used to say
Solid.
small potatoes.
Yeah, we say it all the time.
It's in the Message version. Paul says it in I'm not sure the scripture. But
Yeah, it's like Corinthians or something, but
yeah, small potatoes.
we say that all the time.
Love that. All right, you got to leave them with something, Solly.
We got nothing. I thought it was just them. All right, us. Advice. Don't make any decisions when you're frustrated.
Ooh.
A classic.
A classic.
Mm-hmm.
Oldie but goodie.
Yep. Once you lose your temper, all reason is out the window.
Very true.
It's good.
He's giving that to me.
It's a good one.
All right, well, here's mine, and I have to give credit to Tevin, who is the pastor who did our premarital counseling. But I don't really know Tevin. I'm giving Tevin a shout out to everyone listening, I guess. Shout out to Tevin, our pastor who did premarital counseling. That he said this, and I think someone told him, but it really stuck with me as we were preparing to get married. and now we're married, and I still have to like say it to myself all the time. But by serving and loving your spouse, you are serving and loving the Lord. And even in the small things. So we talked about messiness earlier. Solomon leaves his dirty clothes in the bathroom and the room and the closet.
Okay.
And so I serve my husband by picking them up and moving them to the hamper or putting them in the dirty clothes. But even by small things like that, you are serving the Lord, and you're making your marriage better, and your marriage being better is a better example for Jesus, and you're impacting people. I think our marriage and y'all's marriage is going to be an example for hopefully people see Jesus in the realness and in the messiness and in all the things as we're trying, like we're sinful people and we're trying to be more like Jesus. So that's my tidbit. You are serving, by serving your spouse, you are serving the Lord. It's pretty good, right?
I love it. Hey, can I ask y'all one question?
Yeah, please turn the tables.
What has been the best thing about being married? And then what is something that you really want to improve on together?
Ooh. You know, what's funny is I have an immediate what I would like for us to improve on. There's just so many good things to be my favorite.
You got to celebrate first.
Oh, celebrate first. Okay. What's been the best thing? I think.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You go ahead. I was gonna say our partnership. I did think that since we've been long distance for so long, and just like actually able to have each other in person is really nice. Our worst thing, I mean, I guess not worst, I guess something that we can improve on is, I mean, I'm sure Danielle's probably gonna say how we argue or get in heated discussions. And then the PS, like a little small one, is how somehow I'm the messiest and she has to serve me, but I pick up all these random half drinking cups and all this little snack wrappers and stuff like that around the house.
You cannot do that.
And clean up after her dogs, but it's pretty wild, but it's okay.
Okay.
Messiest.
I'll agree on, since you already said it, that and to end on a high note. Yeah, for us to improve on, that's what we're working on right now, is we're very different in how we argue and how we process. And so I'm a verbal processor and I have to work through things together. And he's like an internal independent processor. So he likes to be by himself and be quiet. So those two things are polar opposites. And I think that's what leads us sometimes to getting to the point of explosion, if you will, which is just our process. And we're working on that. We're working on that crazy cycle, as I mentioned earlier. But the best thing, I was going to say, just being together, like just like you said, eating ice cream and watching TV is really fun. And coming home, I thought about this the other day, of coming home means like not even just his house, but it's like coming home to him, where I feel the most at peace and the most protected and the most myself. It's very comforting and relaxing, but also in another sense, planning for our future. Both of us are looking at our careers and potential promotions coming up, and he's thinking about football and I'm doing this show. And so just planning future and talking kids, like that has been really fun. We've always talked about it, but now that we're in the midst of our life is now together and now we're getting to plan and just also sit where we're at is really fun. Yeah. All right. Now y'all have to answer it.
You just did.
No, they have to answer. The best and the worst. You have to turn the tables.
Honestly, as tough as parenthood has been, it's also just like made, I'll say my love, our love, I'm sure, but my love like grow stronger for Carson as a father, like this new identity. And so I feel like that's just been super fun, and Cash is at a really fun age, even though he's literally crazy. But it's just like so cool to see like your genes come together and just like little quirks that Cash has that Carson does that I do. And so being able to like enter that season and like have tiny humans that are like us together, just like super fun. And honestly, I just feel super blessed in that. And then something we've been working on, definitely, the vague communication, but definitely just figuring out how we can support each other in, our dreams, our passions, me trying to figure out like who I am and who like this new version of myself is, and letting Carson into that. It's like hard to communicate something you don't even know yourself. And so I feel like that's been our biggest like struggle, is something that I've been trying to improve on, like for the sake of the both of us.
Yeah, I would say it just sound like a cliche way, but honestly, so the best thing is to struggle the way that we have together. I've said it a lot, and I think a lot of people have seen it from afar, but just, man, so much has been like put our way, and not in the most like, crazy hurtful, but just a lot of like tearing apart, spiritual walls, and building our family, and leaving things, and people leaving. And when I look at it all, I think there's been times where I'm just like, man, like this has been a hard couple years amidst like just the good life that we do have. So I would say like what I love about it is just like struggling like with her. Like I truly don't know like what I would have done through some of the things that we've walked through without like having us. So just like I think Solomon said, that partnership of like, there's been like a beautiful struggle and a goodness for our marriage that we've experienced in the recent year or two. And then I would say, just to improve, she kind of said it, and I would highlight it this way. Just becoming confident in the many roles that we now share.
Yeah.
You get married and you're like, okay, like we're husband and wife, and I don't know, like life isn't too different for a while. It feels a lot different. And then like what I've noticed is now we have like so many roles and a lot of things to kind of mull through, baggage per se. And so, she said it best, like how does Carson be the best dad, but also the best husband he could be, the best business owner, the best friend, to others, the best Christian churchgoer, etc. Like there's just a lot of like figuring out our roles, and then like encouraging each other in those, because there's a lot more to our lives now. And with more to our lives, I think becomes like better stewardship. And so that's difficult to like improve on. It's like, okay, who am I to the Lord? Who are we to each other? And we're growing up. How do we do this thing? So
how do we do this thing? I like, Erin, you said it so early on that it's a lifelong, we're going to continue to learn about each other. We're going to continue to have to work on communication, because we're two sinful people coming together as one. But hey, at least we have a fun partner to do it with. Guys, the Cases, thank you so much for joining us, for being honest and open about your relationship, for giving us someone to look at as someone who's been married longer and has kids. It's super encouraging just to see authenticity and something that we can look at. And to all my guests, even my husband, thank you guys for being real.